Welcome to the Brain Dump, where we study the psychology of success. Join us as we probe the habits, rituals, and routines of top-performing artists, entrepreneurs, authors, athletes, and more to uncover the timeless principles we can all use to take our lives to the next level. Are you ready to plunge the grunge that's been gunking up your mind's eye? Great, then let's get to it.
Welcome to the Brain Dump. I am doing the intro today because from this moment on, dear listener, I have no clue where the heck this episode's going. Austin wants to fly free as a bird, and when Austin flies free, Anthony takes cover. But it's going to be a fantastic episode because we have a guy that I actually appreciate quite a lot in the multifamily investing space for his frankness, his honesty, his perspective, his thoughtfulness. And we're not going to spend any time talking about real estate today. We're going to talk about all the other aspects that make for a good investor, I think. But with that, Austin, how you doing today, man?
Doing good. There's no greater thrill than I have than Anthony not knowing what we're talking about, because this doesn't work for his mind. Like, he is freaking out right now. Yesterday we let the guests pick the topic mid-intro, so that was fun. That was cool.
I'm on a tightrope right now. We're walking without a net, nothing to catch me. I don't even have my parachute.
So listen, not to double down on your comment, and sorry, we're going to make his head very big, but this man is probably one of my favorite people ever. His willingness to dive into stuff, but more importantly, I think he carries a stoic philosophy, and he doesn't even know he does it. And I don't know if that's just because his demeanor is very quiet and kind of pushing forward. But we got Chris Grenzig in the house. How you doing, brother?
I would say I'm doing well, but I think as we were just talking offline, today's just been one of those days with one thing after another. So guys, I'm doing better now that I'm here with you two. I wasn't sure. I thought today was going to be the low point of my day. It turns out it's the high point, but what are you going to do? Sometimes that's how it rolls.
Did he just call us going into the day to low point?
I love it when people come into conversations and they're like, man, I thought this was going to be my low point, but it wasn't. And I'm like, sweet. But I think we have our topic, honestly, just hearing that this, just one of those days, like, I think when we talk about the psychology of success and everything, people really romanticize what that means. They get these rose-colored glasses of every day is sunshine and rainbows and champagne on beautiful beaches, and everything's just always working out. And the truth of the story is most days, they just feel like one of those days.
Yeah, it has been one of those days. I'm not going to lie. Kind of sounds nice, but the romantic version you described also sounds hella boring. So I don't know.
You know what? That right there, Ed Milet talks about you can't enjoy the ups if you don't have the downs, right? The world doesn't work linear. It doesn't go straight across. And so in order to appreciate the mountain and the nature, you have to walk through a little bit of shit, right? And my coach, he was on my podcast. He did the greatest description of entrepreneurship I've ever heard in my entire life. He doesn't know where he heard it, but he gets into this. He gets real serious, like he gets real serious. He's like, you need to be quiet. I'm gonna explain to you what entrepreneurship is. So you're sitting at a table and somebody puts a bowl in front of your mouth and it's full of dog shit. And he goes, you eat it. And right when you're about to finish it and you think you're done, he's like, they bring you another bowl and then you eat it again. And this goes on for about 5 bowls. And then you're still not through all the bullshit. And isn't that the case? And so, look, you decided to go out on your own after you were working for Toro, and you knew this is what you signed up for. Mm-hmm. You deemed it necessary to learn the aspects of a property management business, which I think is very commendable and is going to serve you for forever in the future. And, just kind of give, like, there's the cute or raising money and doing all those things, and just kind of like how do you laugh at a day that you've had where there's water in the basement? Are you reflect on it an hour later? Like, how do you get through a day like this, like for the listeners out there?
So so just back it up real quick. Anybody who doesn't know me, 30-second overview. started real estate in 2016, worked for a company called Toro for 4.5 years, running portfolio down in Florida. We bought 4,000 units, $300 million worth. I left in November to start my own company, moved from New York to Florida. Currently have 40 units under management. 10-year plan is to get to 500 million under management. But yeah, days like today where it's like the punches just keep rolling. I've just been laughing. I feel like I'm going crazy because I'm just by myself in my office, just laughing as everything happens. It's funny, but for me too, I also think about it like, a lot of the things today have not been terrible in the grand scheme of things, right? Like I walked into a unit this morning that was an eviction. We set out yesterday and there was an inch of water on the ground. That's not really that bad in the grand scheme of things. There's a first floor unit, so the water wasn't going anywhere. We're ripping everything out anyway. So it's not like it was water on brand new stuff. It was just annoying. What I thought was going to be a 30-minute visit turned into 4 hours. Then I'm going through, we're repiping all the units, other units, and a lot of the things I've asked to get done have not gotten done. And it's been a weeks long process. I get back and it's like little administrative things that I'm trying to do. And it's like, nothing that's a killer, right? It's not like I'm sitting here and now I have to eat hundreds of thousands of dollars or, a building burned down. So in the grand scheme of things, it's nothing that bad, but it's just like tiny little things that have just consistently been problems, just got worse today. And I just think it's funny. And I think it's going to be hysterical to look back on in 6 months. I started journaling when I started doing 75 hard, and I'm like super excited to write it down because I'm super excited to look back on it in 6 months, 6 years, 30 years from now.
It's like when you're in the game long enough, the level of things going wrong that have to occur for it to really deeply affect you. You build a tolerance, you build a muscle for your ability to like consume dog shit, as Austin would say. And it sucks because I think this is maybe your first solo owned asset, maybe that you're doing. And so like in a lot of ways, you're like out there without a net and things go wrong. But hey, that's real estate. That's business. That's the entrepreneur lifestyle that they don't really set you up for, is that things go wrong constantly. And I think your perspective is perfect where it's like, it could be worse. It's not that bad in the grand scheme of things. Like I live and you have the ability to do something about it. Right. Mm-hmm. Nobody got hurt. Nobody's dead. Like those are worst case scenarios. You can't come back from that. And so as long as you always keep things in perspective, you can get through. But I think we often spiral. Like we just get into pity parties. We're like, this sucks. My day was set out like this. I only wanted to spend 30 minutes there. Now I'm 4 hours and that guy's a dick and blah, blah, blah. And we just kind of let ourselves work ourselves up.
Yeah, for sure. I think part of it too was, you're right. So, a big part of it was I've never property managed or construction managed before. So I knew this was going to be a test for me, but I just, I still believe I'm going to figure this out one way or another. Coming down, I wasn't expecting to do as extensive unit renovations, but we changed halfway through the demo. I wasn't expecting to manage a whole repipe. I wasn't expecting to have these other issues come up, but like, I don't know. I just backed myself to figure it out one way or another. And, I think the deal still makes a ton of sense. I think it could have been a little bit better than it was, but the stuff we're doing, I think, is also going to make it more valuable in the long run. So, I mean, I know we're not getting deep into the real estate side of it, but I don't know. I just back myself. I think one way or another, I'm going to figure it out. I know I'm going to put in the work to figure it out. Like I'm not going to shy away and just give up and throw my hands up and pass it on to somebody else. And it's going to get done one way or the another because I'm not reinventing the wheel. I'm doing stuff other people have done. And, I've built up a network that, God forbid, other people can help me, or I know I have other people I can rely on. So I'm not worried. I don't think I'm doing the best job of it in the world. And I knew it was going to be a learning process, but that's part of the fun.
It's like that idea. You either win or you learn. Right. Mm-hmm. And honestly, when you win, you don't learn as much usually. And so you're building that muscle right now that's going to make you that much more potent in the future. Mm-hmm. And victories or successes that come unearned or they come easily, they don't mean as much. Like if I just gave you a $5 million lottery ticket right now, we could call that success, but it wouldn't fill you with any kind of deep fulfillment. It wouldn't change you as a person. It would just change your financial situation. And what you're going through right now, and like the psychology of success, is recognizing that the outcome doesn't matter. It's the process and who you're becoming along that journey.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up the lottery. A couple of years ago, I used to, like, when the Powerball, the Mega Millions would get so big, it would be like, just spend a little money on a ticket here and there. It's just like fun. Like my mom, my sister, sometimes we would do it, sometimes we wouldn't. I've 100% completely stopped because I've actually reverse engineered it, where I said, God forbid I won. I would hate that. I would be like, this would feel so unearned and like take away all the enjoyment of the process. And like, I can't wait for this deal to come through the other side. Cause in like 3 years, whenever I come like, visit the deal or like check in, I'm going to have these amazing memories of like how I struggled and how things were going wrong and like look back on. Whereas like the deal that's gone clean, it's like, it's nice, it's fun, but it's not going to mean nearly as much. Now I am going to have to, in my head, make sure I don't become too emotionally attached, because that can be a problem when you're in the investment world. But I don't know. I'm not really worried, but it was interesting you brought up the lottery.
I think the aspect that intrigues me more in the big scale of things is that for the first time in Chris's career, he doesn't have a room full of guys that are in the deal with him, and he's got to look directly in the mirror. That's what I think is more interesting to me, because when shit's going south and you have business partners, you can kind of be like, hey, hey, we're in this together. And like his contractors work for him, his subcontractors work for him. They're not in the deal with him, and they don't care at the end of the day. He's the owner. And so for me, that aspect of going through the emotional struggle of a universe, I'm stealing Anthony's line, I've said it 7 times today, a universe of one makes
that's going on the swag, by the way, people. That's going to be available in the store. No,
makes you a better person, but also going to make you a better investor in the long run.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's definitely different, especially without John and Don at Toro, not only being, them, the owners, and I worked for them, because we had a pretty, I don't want to say like even footing relationship, but, they really, especially the stuff in Florida, they basically literally let me run it. There was very few things I would have to check with them. We were constantly going back and forth, and they really, listen and value my opinion, which is one of the reasons I stayed there so long. But it is just different not even having that, that thing to bounce an idea off of or talk something through. So it's definitely different. I do think I'm very fortunate that I kind of like GC the interior renovations myself. But the guy, his name's Jonathan Rivera, Precision Cleaning Solutions. Can't recommend him enough. He's going to be doing a lot of the, drywall installation, cleaning, painting, stuff like that. He's been really amazing at, letting me bounce some of those ideas off him. Like I probably spent 30, 40 minutes with him today. We were discussing in the bathrooms, there's these old tiles in there that wrap around not only the tub, but around the other walls. And we were bouncing back and forth whether it's worth it to spend the money to rip those out and re-drywall, retile around the tub, put in a new tub, or just to resurface everything. So I think, whether I did it consciously or not, being able to surround myself with those people that do give me some of that element has been very important as well.
Partnerships and the people you surround yourself is so important. The idea of being a complete solopreneur or solo entrepreneur, building a business all by yourself, is actually really scary to me. I've done it in some areas, but the areas that are the highest stakes, I've always had partners. Always had somebody who balances my weaknesses and my strengths, and who, if in nothing else, when things go wrong, I just know I'm not in it alone. And that is like a huge mental load off. And that could maybe not be like an official business partner. Maybe it's like a romantic, life partner, or just a good friend or something. You have to have that network to get through the shit. Like somebody who's at least sitting at the table with you with their own bowl of dog shit. Man, it makes it so much easier to down your own. Or somebody just sitting there watching you and saying like, hey, you can do it. I believe in you. Like that helps too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, even when I decided to leave, almost like in a weird way, I was kind of upset that like everybody was so supportive. Like my parents, my family, even John and Don, when I told them, like, I was kind of hoping they would be like, oh, like, don't leave. Like, you know, it's going to be tougher than you think type of thing. So I could be like, nah, fuck you. I'm going to figure it out. On the shoulder. But it was like, everybody was so supportive. It's like, come on, where's the doubters? Like, where's the people I can prove
Give
wrong
me fire.
Yeah. It's like, you know, like I almost want that. Like, and I'm not really doing this, but like on this building itself, because kind of originally I wasn't looking to spend so much. Like we were just going to try to resurface cabinets or whatever. And just high level, we were probably only going to spend like $7-8 grand renovating interiors. Now we're spending like 15 grand. I almost want, I've never been involved in a project taking it from like a C to a much higher level, like really spending money and like really like turning over the profile of the building, which I'm kind of in a way happy we're doing it on this one. One, I think it has a really wide margin so that it allows me to test it out. But two, a part of me almost wants to purposely over improve and really push the boundaries of what the rent could be. Because if I'm wrong, back to your point, Anthony, like it's going to teach me a lot more of like, hey, you did this and you shouldn't have done that because there was no value added there. Right. Mm-hmm. Like when you just go along that same train of like doing the same thing over and over again, there may come an opportunity where you could do that. And yeah, the risk is a little bit more, but the reward is significantly higher. But if I've never tried it before, it would be much harder to recognize. So like part of me almost wants to purposely mess up slightly where I'm going to almost over improve. I still don't think I'm going to miss on rents. I think we've got a ton of room, but I wouldn't be overly upset if like, I was like, hey, I think we can get 1,200, 1,250 and it ends up being like 1,100, 1,150. Because then what's going to happen is one, I can take a step back for those other, you know, the remaining units. And two, once I start working on much larger projects, I will have experienced that in actuality and, you know, it'll help me just more in the future.
This applies into all aspects of life is that you only know where your limits are when you push beyond them. Mm-hmm. Like it's only in that very first half step beyond your limits where you go, oh, fuck, I overreached. Right. But up until that point, you're always like, okay, I got this. And so you have to be testing in the same way that a child has to be allowed to fall and toddle around and then, you know, eat shit on their bicycle. Like that's how you learn and that's how you grow. And so it's interesting that you're almost like creating this environment where you can like fail on purpose so that you can like figure out where that boundary is. I'm curious, you said something about like, you know, this idea of like hoping people would be a little bit less supportive so that it would give you like this chip or, you know, as I said, like put some fire in your belly. It reminded me of Michael Jordan. And I think we all probably watched The Last Dance at this point, or at least heard about it. Right. And like in there, one of the things I talked about is how he would just like create enemies out of nothing. He would create like these reasons to be offended and be like, that guy, I'm going to put him in the ground because the guy looked at him like strangely maybe. And he's like, and he just concocted like this crazy story. I'm curious if Austin, do you have any experiences like that where you've manually created that chip, or maybe with your story, like you didn't have enough chips?
I didn't have a chip. I had a 90-pound chip boulder on my shoulder for about 25 years. It's interesting. I was just talking about this on a rant I did on the podcast. Like, I haven't shared this with many people, but, you know, I spent 20 years in the restaurant business and I thought about something was going on because I've been getting some DMs from here and there from people. And then I got it confirmed by a friend that was at a bar and they were talking about me. I haven't even talked to these people in like 7 years and they fucking hate my guts. Like when I mean they hate my guts, like, oh, you're sober and you're a podcast host now? Like you think you're better than the restaurant business? Like go fuck yourself. Like this is what they're saying. I get DMs like this from time to time. Like who the fuck do you think you are? Like, you know, we knew you when you were drunk. And you can get mad at that, or you can have compassion that they're really upset for where they are in their life, right? Or where they are. And so I don't need to create enemies. I have plenty already. And at the end of the day, the enemy that I'm really competing against is all the wasted years of bullshit that I wasted on being a victim and not moving in the right direction. So at the end of the day, I got sober because of extreme ownership, and I'm going to be successful because of extreme ownership. There's already enough going against me with my mind and my ADD and all this, you know, like if I can beat this guy, which is the hardest dude in the world, then that's all the fire I need personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no, I definitely get to the same, right? You're, flirting with the, the same stuff of like an imposter syndrome type thing where it's like, who are you to, everybody goes through it, like, who are you to host a podcast, or who are you to go off and build something type of thing where, it's a self-confidence, imposter syndrome type thing where you see somebody that, has scaled to what you're ever doing. And it's like really hard to imagine how you can bridge that gap or put yourself in that situation. And it's like, I always find it really interesting. Like one of the early things I did once we started doing more like podcasting, social media and stuff like that was Joe Rogan reposted his first ever podcast video, and it was atrocious. It was the worst produced thing I've ever seen in my life. They like didn't realize they were recording for like the first 2 or 3 minutes, I think. And I was just like, okay, like that was 10 years in the making to go from literally nothing, nobody watched, can't figure it out, to, top 5 podcasts in the world, and then getting bought out for $100 million from Spotify. I was like, all right, like, that's how you do it type of thing. So, I hear that what you're saying definitely to a certain degree of like, fighting against yourself and, figuring it out and step by step.
Well, isn't it the same aspect of, I know there's people out there because I do it sometimes and I know that people do. And they're the same aspects of people hide money from themselves in other accounts so they don't feel comfortable. Right. So they don't like we have to play with our, what did Leland say yesterday? That's my greatest thing ever. There's just
the right amount of panic in our business or something like that.
To be very highly successful. Mm-hmm. And they bring in like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. And he's like, but we're still want to be number one and there's still competition. And he's like, there's just the right amount of panic for us to be hungry. And I think I'll ask both of you, you've bought many units. And what I love about both of you, as he was talking about, like coming up with ways to like push the envelope, right, on the remodel, I thought to myself, like, these are two people that I know that are 100% bought into the process. Mm-hmm. Like he gets this as like, hey, I'm going to figure this out in the first couple. And as I get up to these 180 and 200 units, it's going to have served me in that time. And I think I have this theory I'm working on. Like I always work on something for like I think too many people get into investing to win the lotto or like to hit it big instead of understanding that this is a legacy play on multiple years over and over again. And I think both of y'all are very good at understanding the game of digging into the process.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. I think, the process is fun for me. Like, I just enjoy working. Like, God's honest truth is my mom's come to me many times over the years and she's like, I just want to make sure you're not overworking yourself or burning yourself out or anything like that. And just make sure like, you're still having fun. I'm like, and this is, yes, I'm doing other things, but this is fun to me. Like, yeah, I don't know. Nobody wakes up and wants to go clean up water with a shop vac for an hour and a half. Right. But the idea and actually going through that and, it sucks while you're doing it, but all right, it's over now and I'm not doing that anymore. I'm, sat here talking to you guys, but, the idea of it is fun and like, going through that stuff to come out the other side or not. But, any failure or problem is temporary. You're going to just move through it one way or another. So I don't know. I just think the process is fun, at least now, maybe in the future, one day I'll be like, screw this. I am going to a beach, but I don't know, I enjoy it, figuring stuff out. It's like, like a puzzle basically.
Mm-hmm. My very first actively owned piece of real estate was a triplex, and I get a call 1 month after we close, and it's the middle of January. It's Minnesota, and we're in the middle of what's called an Arctic blast, which is like -50 temperatures for the last week. And so brutally cold. On this night, there's also a stupendous blizzard where we're just getting dumped with like a couple feet worth of snow. And I get a call around 2 a.m. and on the other line is a panicked tenant who's like, hey man, you need to get over here right away. SWAT's here and they're about to kick down the neighbor's door. Something about fugitives and drugs. Like there's guns everywhere. It's crazy. I was like, can you can you repeat all that? And he's like, here, let me put you on the phone with the officer. So he puts me on the phone with the officer. Same story. They just running through. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? 1 month in to like the property managing journey. And he's like, well, if you can get over here and let us in, we can avoid kicking down doors. And I was like, fuck yeah, don't kick down doors. I'll be there. So we get in the car. I drive a Prius C. That's the small Prius for people who are keeping count, which means it's tiny. It has little tires. And so it doesn't do well in snow. And I live about a half an hour away from the property, which means it takes me about 2 hours that night to get there.
Jesus.
And when we get there, we pull up and there's a man standing in the middle of the street. At this point, it's like shin high snow. And he's like wearing a shotgun and like military equipment from the Army surplus store. And a car's coming down the street the other way. And this guy literally jumps in front of this car at like 4 a.m. and stops it and pulls a lady, like a 60-year-old lady, out of her car and is like, you've driven by this house 3 times in the last 5 minutes. What are you doing? And I was like, what is happening? And then his buddy comes to my door and I'm like, oh, I'm in it now. It wasn't SWAT. It was bounty hunters. It was a whole other thing.
Jesus.
Like it was a crazy, crazy night. And this was like my first month as a landlord. And I'm sharing all of this story because after the fact, I was reflecting on it and my girlfriend was there at the time and she's like, hey, you handled that really well. And I was like reflecting on why that was. And I was like, it's because this is why I'm here. This is why I bought this property, was to learn and to experience these things so that I could grow, I could get better, and then maybe take those learnings and scale up from there. But when when you're in the heat of the moment, you're like vacuuming up water in the basement, or you're like have a big shotgun in your face, like maybe doesn't feel like that. But if you can always keep in perspective of like, why did you sign up for this in the first place? And that's why it's really important to have like a well-identified why beyond just the money. As you pointed out, like it's not just about getting rich, right? Like if that was the goal, there's probably easier ways of doing that than entrepreneurship, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I was talking with somebody yesterday and they were debating like what to do with a condo. Like, should I rent it out or should I sell it and do something else? And I will actively push people away from real estate, because it is way easier and simpler and not a whole lot different oftentimes to make somewhat similar returns by just putting it in like an ETF or something. And you don't have to worry about shit. And I think so many people get caught up in like the real estate game of like, yes, real estate's a great asset. I'm not saying it's not, but from like if you weigh up like the potential like downside or work or worry, like, yeah, you could lose a ton of money in the stock market or an ETF. I'm not saying that, but you're never going to have to deal with a plumbing issue at 2 a.m. You're never going to have a shotgun shoved in your face because you own an ETF. Like it's just a totally different game. So like, and that's something that people don't really think about as they get into the stuff of like being an entrepreneur or a business owner, or real estate investor. Like even if you have a property manager, like you could hire somebody and they suck or something happens to them, they move, they die, they stop working, and then you can't find somebody else. Well, guess whose responsibility it is now? So like, I just think it's really interesting when people talk about real estate and investing. You're like, oh, I don't want to be a landlord because I don't want to deal with the phone call at 2 a.m. Well, yeah. Hopefully your manager doesn't disagree.
I'll do you one. I'll do you one better. I'll do you one better. I have people that tell me, well, I mean, I want to do Airbnb, but I don't want people in my house. What? The fuck are you talking? Well, you saw it on Instagram and somebody posted about how much money they made. You know what I do? True story. I probably do 3 Airbnb talks a month. If you get done with that talk, it sounds like I told you to run like 90 miles the other way. It's not. I'm just letting you know that this shit fucking is hard as hell, and you're running a hotel. And I want you to understand that before you move your whole family and you take these sacrifices and spend, north of $30,000. I need you to know that it's not fucking roses and it sucks. It's hard. And it's taken a long time for me to understand that I can say no to some things because I don't want to do it because I'm aware of how much work it is. You know what's fucking hilarious? I said no to a project 6 months ago. And you know who texted me this morning? person that wants me to come back on the project because I would not work for what they said because I told them what it was going to take. And she's like, I think you were right. And I was like, yeah, I know I was right. And so at the end of the day, but what's interesting about this real estate thing, because one of the reasons we started it and one of the reasons I'm moving away from in my podcast, Just Real Estate People, I like business. Mm. It just so happens that right now, real estate is where I'm doing that. But I like just business in general. And I see an avenue in the future where I'm buying businesses and doing what I do best, which is marketing, sales, but I'm not have anything to do. Like it could be a dentist office. It could be like whatever it is. And people label themselves too much. It's like, this is the only thing I do. And this is all I do. And I can't stand that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's, I am slowly working towards like, I may not do it just depending on what's going on, but like there's a part of me that is on the way of like rolling out basically like a media company of basically repurposing content for people, on social media and stuff from podcasts, because just figured out a system. I've got somebody who works for me that's great. And I think, can move up into a bigger role. And we've talked about it. It's just something that I think is super interesting. And, real estate, when you're in the day-to-day operational stuff, like actually being the manager in the construction stuff, like a lot of that stuff is transferable. Like people don't realize when you buy real estate, especially when you start getting into multifamily and commercial, you're buying mini businesses. You're buying businesses that are set up and having stuff. So I could easily see somebody transitioning from, a real estate business to something else. I think the biggest difference is real estate has a much lower risk profile because there's a much more standard way of doing things. And when you go into businesses, I think there's a less standard way of operating and you got to be more creative and other ways of doing things. So, but I think that's also why, there's a lot more reward as well and your multiples are different. So, I think I can totally see that.
I have kind of like a weird eclectic background of things that I do. And so I'm not really pigeonholed, but it makes it difficult when somebody's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, oh, you do real estate. You're a real estate investor. I'm like, that's one aspect. But at the end of the day, the thing that I've learned is that people don't really care like what you do. They care who you are. Like when it comes down to what you can bring to the equation, it's not like, oh, Austin, mad accounting skills. Got to have him on the team. No, it's like, Austin, that's a guy who gets it done and he's had success and he's a guy that I'll go into the fire with. And maybe he's bad at math. Maybe we'll figure it out. Like, so people don't really like line up based off of hard skills or, past industries really. It's more about like, hey, he succeeded in that thing and he succeeded over in this thing. Like I trust that guy. He's going to succeed at whatever he puts his mind to because he has the characteristics of a successful person. Mm-hmm. And so one of my questions is, on social media and in the world, people are really pushing entrepreneurship and business. And like we live in the real estate world where a lot of people talk about that, but it's not for everybody. Right. And like your life isn't necessarily going to be happier or more fulfilled by going into business for yourself. You might be really happy in your W-2 job. So I guess my question is, what does success mean for you guys? How do you quantify it? How do you measure it? How do you know that what you're doing right now is leading you towards that success? And then how can other people start to filter their own worldview and distill it into their own definition of success? Because yesterday when we were talking to Leland, he was saying, hey, don't make sure that you're not living somebody else's injected values, which I thought was a really powerful thing because in the social media landscape, it's really easy to suddenly be like, oh, I need to build $1 billion company and buy the Jets or the Rams because Gary Vee is doing that, or I need to go buy a literal jet because Grant Cardone did that. Like, how do we distill down to our own definition of success?
Yeah, I think, it's a self-awareness game, which isn't always easy. And I really think it's about, just take stock of like, if you were going to wake up, what would you go do? And if you're really not sure, just go try shit until you find something, yeah, there's some mornings where I wake up and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to deal with this or I don't want to deal with that. But those are minutia things. No matter what you do, you're going to have parts of it that you don't enjoy or you don't enjoy as much or you get tired of. But I think overall, right, if you're like, hey, I can work through that because of all the other things that go with it. I think that's the big rewarding part. I think understanding too, like, what you're getting yourself in for, like there's a tremendous amount of flexibility that I have, but there's also a tremendous amount of self accountability that I have to have, right? There's nobody looking over my shoulder to make sure I'm doing what I'm doing besides, partners and investors and deals. But on a day-to-day, week to week, month to month type thing, hitting those goals and those measures and those thresholds and, how I spend my time, that's all on me. And that's something I'm still figuring out, right? Like I sit here and I say, I'm like, okay, like what is actually the best use of my time that's going to help me progress to my goals that I want? And I don't know the answer, and I'm constantly talking with people. But I think, you try to envision what it's like. And is that something that kind of excites you or terrifies you? And then, you just figure it out. But I don't know. I think a lot of people get stuck in trying to figure out without doing what the perfect scenario is. And because of that, people get stuck in like this procrastination mode. It's like, should I leave my job? Should I work in this industry? Should I do this? It's like, you're never going to know until you actually try it. And you can do only so much of deciding until you do it. So I think if it's something that can be easily tried and, tried on for a little while, I think people should just do it and go forward. If it's something that's a little bit more permanent, requires some more thought and reaching out to people that have done it or are doing it to get a better idea. But it's really tough for me to know, what it's like until you do it. For me, what I said was the reason I decided to go off on my own was I said, my worst case scenario is if I leave my job in New York that I've been at for 4.5 years that I enjoy, and I move to Florida by myself to start something, and I absolutely hate every single part of it. My worst case scenario was I break my lease, I move back to New York, and I go get another job. Mm-hmm. And that I was okay with that. So, even though it was more of a permanent thing, I just looked at worst case and said, am I okay with that if I don't like it? So that's how I looked at it.
Well, I think the issue is that the word success is the most misunderstood word in the English language, because 90% of people are working towards a success that they don't even know their actual why, because they're so filled of emotion and triggers from childhood, or somebody said something 10 years ago that they don't even know if they're headed down the right path. And it's the same thing with social media, somebody else's injected values. Somebody said something to me and it fucked me up for like a month, because and I think that's why I do the podcast. And now I'm really excited because I've journaled 10 days in a row, and I feel like I'm writing a letter to myself every day. It's fucking awesome. I don't know why I waited so long, but he said, I was like talking about everything I was going to do. This is right before I moved to Arizona last year. I was talking about everything I was going to do, and he just stopped me. And I was like, I can't wait till I get here. I can't wait till I get here. And he goes, hey, you remember when you talked to me like 2 years ago and you were talking about all those things that you wanted to do? He goes, be careful that you're not living the life that you wanted currently. And I think that we can always think about where we want to go. And I think we can always look, hey, but what's wild to me with these markers of this podcast, if you go back and listen 6 months, a year, how much gets done in a short amount of time. Dude, I'm building 2 houses and we literally formed the company like 3 weeks ago. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, but like, I'm set up for that now because of all the work I've done up to this point and all the failures and everything like that. And I'm very happy to be right here and present on this call for this conversation. And so we all get caught up in this thing. Well, I want to be doing this and I want to be doing that. And instead of saying like, I have to be here with Chris and Anthony, saying I get to, like, I get to do this conversation. It's not drudgery. And so you have to be careful that your success is defined off of what you deem works for your life. Because here's what's fucking crazy. I also get this DM. Dude, stop traveling so much. What? It's like the number one thing that makes me happy. And you want me to stop like, what the, because it doesn't work for you. It works for me. Like, and I'm okay with that. And so you have to ask yourself, like, at what point Like, are you actually walking out on that branch and walking towards something that's for you, or is it for your mom or your dad or a cousin? Or, I don't think people truly know. I don't think they've had defined it for themselves.
Dude, you get some pretty shitty DMs. Something's wrong with me. I'm not really getting anything like this. I'm either doing really right or really wrong. I don't know.
People only ever DM me to help me blow up my Instagram following. That's all. Or they want to loan me some money on LinkedIn. That's pretty much it. That's all people.
Hey, listen, dude. The heat attracts the heat. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good.
Yeah.
But I think just continue with your point too. I stated something earlier where I was like, my 10-year vision is to get to 500 million. I am 100% okay in 3 years going like, fuck that. I don't want that anymore. And being I'll go to, hey, I'll just own 100 units myself, or, hey, I'll sell everything and put my money into the market, or I don't really like being an entrepreneur anymore. I'll go get a job. I think too many people are so afraid of what it means if you change something or decide something different, especially too, if it's a quote unquote step backward or a step down. There's so many people that would be way happier taking a step down or back and doing something else. I don't really want to say this is a step down or back for my sister, but something that was really interesting was she worked for Disney for years. And on paper, Disney's obviously a great company. She finally, but she was having a really tough time with her boss and her hours, and finally got another job working for another company. And me personally, I don't think it's less prestigious, but I think other people could see that. So that's why I can kind of see why it relates. But I can tell you, she's way happier now working for that other company because the situation she was in wasn't conducive for her. It just wasn't, she wasn't having a good time, even though loves Disney, loved working for them, always wanted to work for them. For her to take that step away, she's now having a significantly better lifestyle in that regard, that work-life balance, where I'm so happy she did it. And I think so many other people in a similar manner would be way better off of okay, on paper, being the doctor looks better, but would probably be way happier stepping away and doing something else.
It's all about identity and consistency with that identity, both for yourself, but then externally, and the identity that other people put on you is oh, that's so-and-so, the Walt Disney exec, or that's the doctor. But what you said there about how you have this 10-year vision, and then in 3 years, if you decide to change your mind, you're okay with that. It reminds me, I can't remember who said it, but the quote is, when the facts change, I change my mind. What do you do? And it's so powerful. It's hey, sometimes circumstances change. And if you're not adapting to that new data, then what are you doing? You're just towing the line and holding on mindlessly to this identity that you constructed that no longer serves you. And maybe it's time to let it go. And in this world, in this modern environment, there's very few existential threats to us. Right? When you talk about moving from New York and going down to Florida and trying this thing, or leaving Walt Disney and going to this other job, or whatever it is, these are things that are probably not going to kill you. They're not going to end in absolute ruin. And so you can always come back from them. You can pivot, you can adapt, you can try again. And that's the beauty of the modern day right now, is that we live in this time where we can try infinitely with very low consequence. And so I think to find success, you have to dabble in a lot of places until you find those problems, those things, those injustices in the world where they just ignite such a fire in your belly that you wake up and you're like, I have to do something about that. Whatever that is. And it could be as big as just, I want to change the outcome of my life and stop being an alcoholic, or I want to go and positively impact 1 billion people in Africa and bring clean drinking water to them. I don't know. Everybody has different visions, but the key is to find the one that is unique to you.
And you know why they don't do those things? It's because they're too worried about what other people think of them. What if I have to go back to New York? What are people going to say? Who gives a fuck? Jesus Christ. Are they paying your bills? It doesn't matter. But too many people, don't leave where they grew up. Dude, we got one out. I'm so happy. We got a New Yorker out of New York. Holy shit. It was it's we have a team down there. He went to the safe place. So he went to Florida. So if we got him to Arizona, that'd be crazy town stuff. Yeah. But he went to Florida. But Chris, anybody that's thinking about starting a business, getting that first investment, whatever it is, changing, making a shift, because you're working for a great company. What advice would you give them before we get out of here?
I think one of the best things people can do is like tell other people and walk through it, and not for the fact of like getting the response back from somebody. Like, don't really care what they say. Like, if you get support, that's great. If they don't give you support, if you can turn that into more fuel, that's great. But like, don't do it for the feedback. Do it for like, one, have you really thought it through, right? Like maybe they ask you questions that you hadn't considered and you're like, okay, great. Now I've got something I can work through, right? Like ask someone to poke holes in your plan. Number two, like, it's almost like trying on a suit a little bit. Like when you tell somebody, like, how do you feel after you tell the person, like, does it feel good that like, hey, I'm working towards something and then like this feels right? Or after you said it, did it feel a little weird and like it didn't really sit right with what you're doing? So I think it's a way you can almost use other people of like putting it out there and, you know, getting it out of your own head and actually into physical words. And like, I don't want to say like manifesting, because I don't really love that word or phrase, even though I think it's I just think it's overplayed right now, the way people use it, but I think it's a real thing. But it's almost like, you know, like try around, you know, try on the shoes a little bit, try on the suit, walk around, see how does it feel? Like, is it a good fit or is it like baggy or tight? And it's just not, you know, quite right for where you are, what you're really looking to do. Because I think a lot of times we have things in our head, and then once we actually start to do it or put it on paper or put it into words, it actually comes out very different or plays out very different than we thought.
I think you should look for the purple marble. I don't know why that just popped in my head. I'm just Chris,
I'm out of here. I'm going home, people.
Dude, he knows every quote and every book. I just make up shit sometimes, and I was making some stuff up in an episode. But Chris, if people want to find out more about you, you have an amazing podcast that you do, social media, which I think some of the best content out there, and we're not just blowing smoke up your butt. It's really good. How would they do that?
Yeah, so still getting a lot of company stuff set up. So best place right now is definitely social media. So any platform, if you search Chris Grenzig, but the two main ones are Instagram at chris.grenzig or LinkedIn, just search Chris Grenzig and you can find me. Our podcast, I co-host with John Cohen, the co-owner of Toro, who I used to work with. It's called the Real Estate Investing Experience. You can find it at REIEXP.com. Or you can search it on any and every platform, including YouTube.
I highly recommend everybody stop what they're doing right now and go and follow Chris. That's my 2 cents. I think you'd be better for it. I think you'll enjoy it. And Chris, I want to acknowledge and say like a big thank you for joining us on the show here today, because I know it's just one of those days, a lot of things going wrong, and I know how it feels sometimes to have to go onto a podcast when your mind is elsewhere. So way to show up. I appreciate it. I think you brought a ton of value, and we're looking forward to the next episode. And hopefully next time you come in with a better attitude, man.
Hey, Anthony, Chris is going to be in Nashville too, baby.
Oh, is he?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
boom.
I'm excited.
That's going to be awesome. That's going to be a good time.
Yeah, dude, we're going to turn it up. So maybe we'll record a live episode while we're there.
So I don't know when this episode's going live, but for the listeners at home, do you want to drop a link, some kind of info on?
It's coming out 2 days.
You guys
before.
are nice and prepared.
It's coming out. It's coming out
in the Nashville area. This podcast is coming out 2 days before the trio here lands in Nashville for some kind of mastermind big event. It's
Construct
free.
Your Life Mastermind.
That thing. It's Austin's other podcast. It's
it's dog shit. Yeah.
But so, if you're in the area, if you're anywhere near Nashville, come and join us. What's the weekend of that? It's
May 14th and 15th.
May 14th and 15th. So come out and join us. Get a picture with the one and only Austin Linney.
You know what? They're $5 a shot. I'll even make sure I wear a nice shirt. So I was going to say something different, but I kept that to myself. So
probably smart decision.
Guy, especially with these two conservative guys on the podcast. So guys, if you like this episode, please rate and review us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us here at the Brain Dump. Now, before you go, it's important to solidify what you've learned here today by taking action. If all you do is listen, then you're only going to retain a small amount of the information you consumed here today. So take a quick moment to really lock in any key insights, tidbits, or pieces of wisdom that you want to carry with you into the future. You can do this by heading over to iTunes and leaving a review with your top 3 takeaways from this episode. If you've already left a review, first, thank you so much. Second, it's time to start a brain dump journal. It doesn't have to be fancy, just a slip of paper will do where you can record a couple quick thoughts from each episode. Science shows this is one of the best ways to ensure long-term retention of new information. And finally, if you've got a brother, a sister, a coworker, or a best friend that you think would benefit from this episode, do them and us a favor and share with them this episode. Your support, as always, means the world to us.